Well, hello, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of SW Golf Academy. Today's subject, how to fix your reverse pivot and hit longer drives. Well, there's two kinds of reverse pivots. You need to know which one you're in to go about it with the appropriate fixes. We'll show you that. We'll show you how it saps distance, and of course, we'll give you some ideas as to how to fix it. Well, if you're new to the channel, or perhaps you've watched the videos before but haven't subscribed, we'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button now. Helps us build momentum. We want to keep bringing you free content. Also hit the bell there and you'll be notified every time a new video is coming your way. So let's have a look at these two reverse pivots. The first one I'm going to demonstrate inside the studio, and that's one that happens more with the hips. And we'll get out and we'll show you how it saps power, and we'll kind of get this thing rolling here before we get into the second one. So in this scenario, it's the hips that reverse pivot. As we hit a shot there, let's back it up and let's bracket the hips in. This is the kind of look you'll see. You'll see them move towards the target. And it won't be the head that moves in front of the target. If anything, it'll be characterized by excessive lean away from the target with the upper body. Okay, reasons this would sap your power. Number one, if you've already shifted your weight over here, you don't really have the advantage of that powerful weight shift coming down because you did it in the backswing. Number two, it creates a timing difficulty. Once your subconscious mind senses I'm getting in front of the ball, I'm too far past it with my body, it will tend to shut the body down to catch the club up. These things happen at the subconscious level and they're good. They allow you to play, but it's not good if you want to hit the ball a long way and be consistent. So you start playing catch up, things get out of sync a little bit. And just building on that theme, generally speaking, your subconscious mind, one of its priorities in the motor program is balance, whether that's standing on the street or whatever. And with enough golf balls hit, your mind starts to realize things are out of sync, things are out of sorts, and it begins to shut down and just try to make contact with the ball. Again, not a recipe for consistency or for power. So we'll look at some fixes for that towards the end of the video. Let's check out number two reverse pivot next. So here we are now. It's the upper body toppling towards the target. Lots of problems. This wound up being a top shot, nothing pleasant there. Let's just have a look at the upper body, see how it reacts. And again, in this case, it's the opposite. The top of the spine's moving that way, and usually the hips will move in that direction. Not a recipe for powerful, consistent driving for sure. Okay, if you're one of these golfers that topples and tips your upper body towards the target, I tend to be the opposite golfer, the one we looked at first, where my hips go that way. But if this is you, this second fault, here's the problems you're going to face. Almost always, when you topple towards the target, it steepens the path of the swing. It gets it more up and down, not at all suitable for driving. Driving wants to come on a rounder plane. And along those lines, the more you topple this way, not only is your swing plane steep, but your angle of attack is too down towards the ground. Kills your distance off the tee. It's no good. Now, the more athletic golfers certainly will have the ability to back up and kind of compensate for it. In a small measure, Colin Montgomery, a great driver, the ball did that and backed up perfectly with a big hip slide, but it's difficult to do, it's difficult to time it up. Again, we don't want that. So briefly here, before we get into our fixes, let's look at how it should be done. Justin Rose there, great example. Let's look at his head between maybe the hats of these two spectators. He gets, as many players do, just a tiny bump at the beginning of his backswing, but round numbers. Once he's done that, you look at his head there, it may rotate slightly, but the top of that axis, his neck, is very stable. How about the lower body? Let's look at the C here on Championship. He, again, will get a very small bump, but after that, it's pretty much just pure pivot in the middle. You don't see the hips particularly going either way. Stands him in good stead, of course. How about one of the best drivers in the world, Adam Scott? Let's have a look at him. Just watch his Titleist tap there. Very, very stable. And watch the space between his hip and this marker over here. I believe that's a marker there. Very similar. You can see that hip just going behind him just a little bit at the top. Really, really terrific, terrific pivot. Now, I'm not in the league of these two fellas, but let's have a quick look at me before we get outside and work on fixes. And again, look at the electric cord versus my head. I also get a very slight bump off the ball, but the hips, pretty good there, pretty stable, allows me to load and shift into that front leg and create a good strong move through. Have a free 3-part in-depth video course on gaining yardage Really detailed, fun course. Hope you'll take advantage of that and pick it up down in the description box. Okay, if you're the golfer, like I tend to be, whose hips go this way a little bit too much, you get that lower body reverse pivot, here's what you need. Think of it this way. Put the club down. You can try it right there at home in front of your computer or whatnot. Without turning, get a golf posture. If you just bent to the side, what would happen is your top of your spine, your head would go that way, your hip joints would go that way a little bit. Now obviously we don't want to do that, but you need some of that in your backswing. So this is a longer trail side, a longer right side if you like for the right-handed golfers. That's the kind of thing I have to feel in my swing. Certainly I'm pivoting, but I feel a sense that my right side here gets longer and it's enough to get my hips over there. You've got to use a mirror. Do it without a club first. You've got to get feedback to get the right amounts of these things. Now, if you're the golfer, the second one we talked about, who's pivoting this way too much already, obviously you've got to get rid of some side bend. So what you're looking for is more of a pure turn. Now, obviously what I just demonstrated there is too much of what we're looking for, but think of it this way. The distance between your chest, say your shirt button and the ground there, that should stay more similar. Now, in reality, obviously in a backswing, that doesn't stay exactly the same. The chest does get a little bit further from the ground in 3 dimensions, but you've got to feel like your chest stays more over, you pivot, it'll feel more level, chest is more this way, more down, pushed into the ground. Play around with it. Don't always try to do it exactly perfectly first time. Once you've done a few pivots in front of the mirror, you're starting to feel too much of one or the other. Neutralize it. Second stage to me is grabbing an imaginary club with your hands and trying to do it without the club, but in a kind of a hold the club position. Please hit the thumbs up button if you like this video. I hope it's helpful to you. And again, I want to encourage you, get away from the club and the ball a little bit. Map this out in front of a mirror. You solve this in your backswing, you make your downswing so much easier to do and so much more powerful with that driver.